Good morning, everyone. Those who have been with us during this past week, Spiritual Renewal Week, we want to thank you so much for your devotion, for your sincere participation and spiritual enjoyment of everything that happened. And it really was a life-changing experience for me, at least I hope for you. And I also want to give a greeting, special greeting to those who have arrived for our Living Discipleship program, which starts this evening. And this is a month-long, in-depth training in immersion in Master's teachings. And what a wonderful way to enter into this week. So let's begin. Our topic, as you just heard Jyotish read, the redeeming light. And I'll read a brief prayer poem from Whispers from Eternity. Demand that God's light drive dark ignorance away. O divine friend, though the darkness of my ignorance be as old as the world, still make me realize that with the dawn of thy light, the darkness will vanish as though it had never been. There's a very intriguing story about one of the great discoveries of in the 20th century in modern archaeology. And there was a British citizen, Howard Carter, and from a young age, he was born in the late 1800s. From a young age, he was just intrigued and fascinated with ancient Egypt. And when he was about 17, he went to Egypt and worked for one of their departments of antiquity. But the thing that held him, captured him the most, was to find the tomb of King Tut, King Tutankhamun. And to this end, he did other explorations and discovered other great things, but still he was driven. It must have been a past life connection. I must find this tomb of King Tutankhamun, who is mentioned in so much of the Egyptian literature, ancient Egyptian literature. And he was able, in about 1912, he was able to get the financial support of a British nobility, Lord Carnarvon, and he supported him year after year. He kind of had a sense where this tomb might be, and he kept looking here and there, and 12 years went by, never found it. And then Lord Carnarvon said, all right, you've had your chance. I'm not going to fund this project anymore. And Howard Carter said, give me one more year. I think we'll find it this year. And Lord Carnarvon agreed. And so they went to an area where they had been excavating. And there were some old, dilapidated huts from workers from past years. And so they had some of the helpers clear away this debris of these old huts that had been lived in. There was one young boy, a young Egyptian boy, who was helping clear away the debris. And as he was sweeping the sand, getting all the old wood and straw out of it, he uncovered a slab of stone. And he kept sweeping and sweeping, and he realized he had revealed some steps, stone steps going down. And he called Howard Carter over, let's start digging. And they began digging, and the steps led down to a chamber, and there on the chamber was a seal of King Tutankhamun, but it was just the outer chamber, and it had been looted by robbers, and things were all in disarray. But Howard Carter said, let's keep going, let's keep going. And he called Lord Carnarvon over from England, and he said, I think we're close now. And they kept digging, and finally they came to a door, and there was the seal of King Tut. And Howard Carter said, I believe we found it. But there was a big stone door, and he had a little chisel that his grandmother had given him when he was 17 for his archaeological work. And he began chipping and chipping, and he chipped a hole. And Carnivore and his sister, or daughter, gave him a candle, and he held it up, and he peered into the darkness which had been sealed for thousands of years. And Carnivore impatiently said, "Do you see anything?" And Howard Carter couldn't talk for a long time. And then finally he said, "Wonderful things." And this is, in a way, an allegory of our spiritual search. We begin, and we don't really know what we're doing, but we just keep persevering, and it's hard, and we don't feel like we're making any progress. And then maybe we find a friend, a supporter who helps us along the way, and then we discover something. Oh, I found my guru. And his path, there's some steps leading there. And you keep going, and then you reach some kind of clutter, which is our karma that we have to clear up. And the robbers of peace sort of already got in there and made it a mess. But then we keep going, and then we come to the final door. But what do we see? We see the stamp of our guru. And then with something of our past, we begin chiseling and chiseling, and we make a hole. And just as we read in that whisper, the darkness of our soul may have existed from time immemorial, but all we have to do is hold the candle of faith and devotion into that darkness. And what do we see? Wonderful things, treasures. Not a golden sarcophagus, as Howard Carter discovered, but the gold of our own soul. And it's the story of all humanity. And the light that we bring to the darkness, and whose light is this, really? It's not our light. It's God's light that shines within us. But it shines and it disperses the darkness, as the whisper said, as though it had never been. And when you read the lives of saints of all religions, of Christianity and Judaism and Islam and Hinduism, and of course our line of gurus, it's the same transformation that we're going through, of illumining the darkness until there is no more darkness. There's the passage that Swamiji included in the reading, the raised reading, about how Master was healed by the light of Lahiri Mahasaya. I'll do a little aside here. Last year when we were Dai and Keshava, why don't you stand, because people don't know you. Dai and Keshava are the center leaders of our work in Kanchio, which is in Delhi. Last year we had a special event there, and the children put on a play from the Autobiography, and they did this story of the healing of Master from cholera, and they did it so well. And this little boy who was playing Master, they had, just when his mother was praying, the young girl who was acting as his mother, and then the light, they had a spotlight just shone right on his heart, and he sat up, and I'm well! It was so beautiful. But there's a second part of that story in the Autobiography that Master, same chapter, page later, that Master said several months shortly after this healing, so he was 8 years old. He said, I was sitting on my bed and I went into a deep state of reverie. And I began to think, what is behind the darkness of closed eyes? And all of a sudden, this flash of light filled his consciousness, and images, he said, like a cinema screen in my brain, he started seeing images of saints in meditative postures in caves in the Himalayas. And he said, "Who are you?" And he said, they replied with a wondrous voice, "We are the Himalayan yogis." Yesterday, or a few days ago, Sagar was talking about, who should you identify with? I am a yogi. And so they said, "We are the Himalayan yogis." And Master said, "I want to go to the Himalayas and be like you." And then they vanished. But they were replaced by an ever-expanding and more powerful light, and a voice that filled him with ecstasy. He said, Master first asked, "What are you?" And this voice, filled with the ecstasy of cosmic consciousness, said, "I am Ishwara. I am light." And Master explains in Sanskrit, very interesting, Ishwara, light, means he who rules the universe. Light means that which rules the universe. And so when Master saw the yogis, he said, "I want to be like you." But when he saw the light alone, he said, "I want to be one with you." That's the next step. When we really see the light, there's no separation because there's no form. And Master said, from that ecstatic experience, I drew, he's such a wonderful poetic writer. I mean, you could just read one page and it would be beautiful enough, an autobiography. But he said, from that experience, I drew a permanent legacy of ecstasy to find God, because I knew that God was ever new, eternal joy. And that's what the light imparted to him. It gave him that experience, that God is joy. And so all the forms, love and joy and light, they come together in the end, and they drive out the darkness. And you know, Swamiji has given us such a beautiful legacy. Jatish and I were speaking last night. When we say this was the best spiritual renewal week ever, and we say that every year, of course, in the early years, Swami did it all, taught all the classes and everything. But we can say that this was the best ever because we felt that Swami was present in every speaker, in every singer, in every chant, in every one of you who came with such sincerity to meditate and to draw from these great teachings. And so it's as though the one body of Swami has imbued everyone and everything, and the people cooking and the people cleaning. It was just like one consciousness. And Swami was uplifting us, but he gave us this legacy of light. Think about it. He called the World Brotherhood communities that are growing. They've been in America, but now they're growing all over the world. What did he call them? Cities of light. And what did he call our retreat here? The expanding light. And what did he call this temple and the one in Assisi? Temples of light. And he gave us, and what does he call those of us who serve? Light bearers. And what did he gave us? The festival of light. And by the way, I read once that, reading about the early life of Christ, or of Mary and Joseph, they were Essenes, which was a mystical branch of the Hebrew people. But the Essenes had a festival of light as well. And then in this festival of light, there's that beautiful line, "O children of light, forsake the darkness. Know that forever you and he are one." So Swami has created this legacy both in the buildings and the ceremonies, but more important, for us to remember that we are children of the light. And no matter how many years, how many lifetimes we've dwelled in the shadow, the light, because it is the ruler of the universe, that light will win out. Within us, within truth seekers everywhere, and with great reassurance, I tell you, it will win out in the world. Just as in Morley's wonderful story last night, even though the Asuras, the forces of darkness, seem dominant, having taken over the heavens, in the end, the love of Divine Mother won out, and the light prevailed. And I'll close with a story that it's really Jyotish's story, but he said I could tell it. So in 1974, Jyotish and 3 others, I wasn't on this trip, accompanied Swami Kriyananda on a trip around the world. And Swami gave talks in many different places. And it was a several-month trip, 3 or 4 months. But the first place they landed, they flew from San Francisco, and they flew into Hawaii, to the island of Kauai. And on that island, I'm sure many of you have been there and may know this, but there's a sacred river that runs north and south on the island. And the ancient Hawaiian priests had different little shrines, temples up that river. And when you, from a yogic point of view, they were the chakras. But along one of the, where there had been a sacred temple, a modern day saint had created an ashram, Master Subramanya. And he was a Westerner, but he had a very dynamic ashram there. And Jyotish and the other 3 people accompanied Swami to this ashram to have satsang there. It was a rather strict order, and it was the first time foreigners, or I should say people not a part of their group, were allowed to enter. And it was the first time women were allowed to enter because it was a monastery. But Jyotish said it was so beautiful watching Swamiji and Master Subramanya interact, because he said they were like spiritual brothers. They were both very creative, very intelligent, highly educated. And he said watching the conversation was like just watching 2 exalted beings share from a very high place of consciousness. But then it was time to leave. And Master Subramanya said to Swamiji and to the rest of them, he said, "You have brought your light here to us, to our ashram, and we have joined our light with yours." And it becomes even stronger. And now as you travel, Subramanya said to Swamiji and the group, now as you travel around the world, wherever you go, join your light with the light you find, and it will become stronger and stronger, and then weave threads of light all around the world. Well, I thought that was a good story for our conclusion of Spiritual Renewal Week, because many of you will be leaving, going back to where you're based, I should say. And those of us who remain, we won't be live at the village, we won't be traveling, but we'll all be leaving this bubble of light that we've all been in. And in life catches up with you with work and demands and responsibilities. We all have them. Those of us who live here, believe me, are not immune to those. But let's remember, as we leave this bubble of light, to carry that light with us and join it with the light we find in the workplace, on the bus, in your home, with friends, wherever it may be. Share that light, and let's weave the world in threads of light so that the darkness no more can prevail. God bless you.
In India there lived by the banks of a stream a hermit whose prayers chose applause for their theme. He gazed at the flowers and he smiled at the sun. Then he clapped with delight, Lord, he cried, oh, well done.
Well done, Lord, oh, very well done. The mountains that laugh with the gypsy clouds, the fields smile to welcome the sun. All nature sings praises aloud. The fields smile to welcome the sun. All nature sings praises aloud. The trees dance to show their elation. A day of God's earth has begun. And every true heart in creation in speechless wonder is found. And every true heart in creation in speechless wonder is found. Well done, Lord, oh, very well done. The joy that you planted in children's hearts, the thrill known in bearing a son, the hope when a trial departs. The thrill known in bearing a son, the hope when a trial departs. The gladness of men in their neighbors, of youth when its victories won. Our joys are the fruit of your labors. How wonderful, Lord, are your arts. Our joys are the fruit of your labors. How wonderful, Lord, are your arts. Well done, Lord, oh, very well done. At last I've discovered the mystic key, the world's joy, oh, secretive one, replies to your sweetness in me. The world's joy, oh, secretive one, replies to your sweetness in me. For here in my heart lies the answer, your love shedding light like the sun. All life seems to leap like a dancer, when gazing I see only thee. All life seems to leap like a dancer,